We're at Bastion, which is a comms, marketing and events company here in London. We've worked with companies including ESL, Ubisoft, Supercell. And we also worked on the World Finals of Clash Royale in London last year, which was a huge success and obviously very relevant to what we're going to be discussing today in a panel that is entitled, let me get this right, The Future's Bright, The Future's Mobile Esports. Or more accurately, The Future's Bright, The Future's Mobile Esports, question mark. And it's that question mark that these guys will be focusing on today. It's a big question and a big topic, but quite a small amount of time. So to get things going, I thought what we'd do is, as well as asking you guys to introduce yourselves, give us your headline thoughts on to what extent the future is mobile, if it is, what's going to drive that, and I guess fundamentally, is that a good and positive thing? So, Deborah, let's start with you.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone, I'm Deborah. I work for Space 8 Games. I mostly head up content over there, but I'm also, I guess, sort of the POC for esports, or at least one of them, at our company. We're currently developing a 5v5 competitive title. It's going into soft launch soon, so yeah, this space is super interesting to us and has been for a while. As for mobile esports, yes, the future. I do believe that. What's that? Mostly because of the accessibility, I think, of mobile. I mean, we can see it in the East and China, etc. That's like the mobile first generation. That's happening over here as well in the West. So I think it's just a matter of time, to be honest. I think it's inevitable.
Why do you think there is that disparity, and I can jump in any time, between the rate of progress in the East and territories out there compared to here? Why either they're leading the way or we lag behind? What do you think is behind that?
Well, I think it's because of that generational sort of shift. Obviously over here, people are still really used to PC and console, whereas over in the East, people are growing up with mobile devices, so that's their main port of call. The technology is really advanced now, so you can do a lot of the same things that you could do on PC or console on mobile these days, and that's only going to progress. So yeah, the limitations are falling away when it comes to mobile.
Sure. Okay, Kasperi, intros and top-line thoughts?
Hello everyone, I'm Kasperi. I come from Finland, work at Critical Force. What we do is a competitive mobile FPS, so pretty much considered a mobile esports. The way we do it is organically, and to answer your question, I do believe mobile esports has a space in the future of esports. I'm not positive. It has its own opportunities and challenges, but I'm definitely sure that it will play a part either as a subcategory in the esports branch or in some other way on its own.
Sure.
All right. Hi everyone, my name is Jan. I work as the senior team manager for Fnatic. Fnatic is a big esports brand that is leading multiple teams in a lot of games right now. I think we're at 11. Been a professional gamer myself before, then worked in coaching, made my way to Fnatic, and now I'm senior team management. Regarding mobile esports, we had mobile esports teams in the past. We're having one right now at Fnatic that we're involved with managing, and just observing the space, observing the mobile esports industry, just see where it goes. But we do think that there definitely is space for mobile in the future.
How much of a priority is it for you guys within Fnatic at the moment, and how do you see that changing in the future?
Especially with mobile being more in Asia right now, and us having headquarters, we consider ourselves as a global brand. We're not only working in Europe. Our Dota 2 team is based in Southeast Asia. We have Clash Royale right now, which is a mobile game, and they're out in North America. So it just depends on what game is there and in what territory of the world is the game going to be played.
Yeah. So you all talked positively about what you think will drive the sector forward. Can you also talk maybe about some of the things you think might hold it back a little bit, or what sort of pushback the sector gets from other areas of the industry?
Sure. So I think one of them is definitely the mindset. I think when it comes to esports, we all have the mindset that it should be put PC or to a lesser extent console. So the idea that mobile is trying to wedge itself into that, a lot of people aren't, I guess, on board because they can't imagine someone playing competitively hardcore and sitting over like a tablet or a phone. So I think there is the mindset, but also the games. Like so far, I don't think we necessarily have seen a game on mobile that has that skill gap that's required, that has the watchability that's required for a true esport. But I think that's also just because we haven't had that many titles that could sort of fit into that gap. But I think as more and more developers are sort of taking on that challenge of developing for mobile, we'll see more titles that can fit into that space as well. And then, like I said, watchability, I think, is one of the main ones. So even something like Clash Royale, amazing game. I don't know if any of you guys went to the championship as well at the Copperbox Arena. Like, that was a spectacle. It was mad. But I think that game wasn't necessarily designed to be a watchable esport. Right. So, it's designed for the interaction of the players. It's not necessarily designed to be able to watch from an outsider's perspective. So I think that's still missing a little bit.
Sure. And how does that get solved? Can that only be solved by a unique standalone mobile game rather than simply sort of versions of existing games? Do you think, in other words, mobile has to solve that problem itself within its own sector, within its own boundaries?
For sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because otherwise you can just see a much better version of it somewhere else, sure.
Yeah, and session lengths as well, right? With mobile, they're different. Like, you can watch a League of Legends game for like 40 minutes, whereas how much can you watch like a 5-minute session game, or how many matches can you watch in a 5-minute session
Just to quickly
game?
step in there, I think that the main thing there when it comes to just watching esports, and with League of Legends games being 40 to 60 minutes, Dota games being the same, is just a thing of storyline. Yeah. Just, if you need to have a story to tell, and it depends on the format of how the tournament is shaped to tell a story about a game where rounds can be over in like 1 minute, or the entire game could be decided within 3 minutes, instead of having the story within the actual round of like just one game in the best of 3 in League of Legends World Finals.
Yeah, no, for sure, agree.
But at the same time, it's actually both gaming-wise and viewing-wise for mobile, the short span of the game, or like short duration, since not only do players on mobile game in shorter durations, but they also view live video in way shorter periods than a average PC viewer sees. You must commit fully to the live stream in order to enjoy the content, and therefore the average viewing time is way shorter than on PC.
Yeah, one thing, and like we quickly chatted a little bit before, one thing you do when you watch PC esports and when you're just into competitive gaming on a PC is you have your dual monitor set up at home, and you just put up the game, like Face It Major in London on the second screen, and you just do something else on your first screen. You might even play a game yourself. You can't do that on a mobile screen because there's just no dual monitor setup.
Sure. Some of the negatives there, and I think what you've all touched upon, is this sort of inherent contradiction between the casual and snackable nature of mobile and the more hardcore and dedicated sort of culture of esports. Is that a bridge that you see possible to, a gap that you see possible to bridge? And if so, how does that happen? And that's a cultural thing more than anything, in terms of the people who are interested in one are not the people who are interested in another, I suppose.
I think there's definitely room for both. I can't say for sure, obviously, whether mobile games will just sort of extend, like the session lengths will extend and people will become more comfortable with playing competitively on those devices, etc., or whether there will just be a space where people enjoy shorter forms of esports tournaments that are just like a quicker engagement, right?
Yeah.
But I think that'll depend on the type of games that come out and what people enjoy. Yeah.
Sure.
The way I see this, one doesn't block the other.
Right.
You can cater to shorter session lengths like we do, while also having something for the competitive players and having that catered as well. But even the competitive players, due to the nature of mobile, they might be on the go. They might be on a bus, they have 5-10 minutes, and they want to grab it and play. Maybe not competitively, but just to have something and engage with the game that they like.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was
Go
going
ahead,
to say
yeah.
one more thing. So, for example, we had Team Secret into our studio to play test our game, which was a lot of fun, and they loved it. And they were boot camping for Fortnite while they were here.
Right.
And they actually said, like, oh, I wish we had your game while we were waiting for a match to load, because it can take like 20 minutes for a match to load at that level, right?
Sure,
so
yeah.
I think there's a space for both, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we've sort of looked at some of the negative sides of that contradiction, but I guess the positive is it could be almost like a Trojan horse to expand the audience and to increase the palette of what esports is, both in terms of the content and the audience. I guess for some people it could be like a gateway format into esports. Is that something that you see as possible?
Yeah, I think that's completely possible in terms of like talking more casual. Like if you compare the PC games, like even many titles in mobile esports can be considered more casual, and that makes it a bit different audience, I'd say. If you are going for the hardcore gamer archetype with mobile esports, then well, there is. Especially in the West, there is basic hardcore gamer. If you go tell them like, all right, mobile esports, they usually have the same kind of reaction because mobile games are usually considered more casual and short session lengths.
I think there's just what has to be considered is just natural growth of an esports scene within a mobile esport title. If you look back at the big PC games, sure, they're like League of Legends is made for competition, but if you look at something like StarCraft that has a story mode, has a competition mode, that game wasn't built from the ground up just for esports. It was just a natural thing that it happened, that people played against each other, and at some point they just wanted to see the best.
Sure.
And then small tournaments started to rise, and I think this is the same way, like what we're going or what we have to see in mobile esports.
Yeah, yeah. And within the industry itself, and that's including teams and players, I suppose, is there an inherent snobbery that sort of pervades over mobile in terms of it's a poor relation of other formats? Because I mean, everyone keeps using the word hardcore, which is not often applied to mobile gaming.
Maybe, but just draw the comparison to just regular sports, right? It's a thing of your region, culture you're in. When we talk like, nobody in America or in Germany is necessarily into cricket, whereas cricket is big in India, like in England, and often English people, or in Germany and Europe, you're looking at like, oh, American football, that's not even the ball, it's not even round, so it's like looked down on, and they're mocking each other. So that will always be there, but in the end, if there's a way to compete, and the accessibility, especially in mobile esports, is there. So if there's people that just want to compete and want to find out who's the best, there will be an esports scene.
Sure, and a specific question for you actually. I mean, how do players themselves view it? Do they view it as sort of playing in the Championship rather than the Premier League, or maybe a training ground for the big leagues, or does it have cachet in its own right from a player and team's point of view?
Like in mobile esports right now, like Clash Royale has just launched the Clash Royale League for Europe, North America, Asia, Latin America. We had SLO before, so there definitely is a hardcore kind of audience, and there's lots of people who just. I know some of our players are playing Clash Royale when they're waiting for a game, when they're waiting for the queue to pop.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah. And talking about the geographical spread, I guess geographically mobile is more prevalent than anything. So how key will it be in those areas like India and the African continent, for instance? Do you think that this could be a way to open those up? There's huge markets, such as has happened with music and other industries.
Oh yeah. Well, in our case, we have definitely seen, especially in South America, that the enthusiasm of the community for mobile esports in that area is you cannot compare it to anything else. In like North America, Europe, we have communities, but South America is something different. You can clearly see that culturally, mobile games are like considered or perceived in a different way. In that area.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely Latin America. That's a huge, I guess, opportunity for stepping into that growth. I think, again, that also has to do with the accessibility of mobile. You know, not necessarily everybody has the means or the funds to be able to purchase like a top-end PC to play a game, whereas everybody has a mobile phone, you know? So I think that's just a huge opportunity, yeah.
And do you think one of the keys to opening up territories like that is within is bespoke content? So thinking about those territories as markets rather than saying, this is what we're playing here, do you like it? This is what we're playing here, do you like it? Do you think there should be more...
Like catered to that
sure,
area?
Yeah. And again, I mean, I guess that could come from it could organically be created within those territories itself.
I guess it depends. Obviously, like Asia or China specifically is like a very different market, and what flies here may not fly there, and vice versa. So you see the games being adapted for a Western audience when they come from there. But for Latin America, I don't think that's necessarily true.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. And finally, from me, and then maybe get some questions from the floor. A nice simple one. Where do you see mobile esports being in let's say 5 years' time, both in terms of numbers and territories, but also in terms of its sort of acceptance and credibility, both within the industry and the audience? Whoever wants to go first.
I think it will be there. So in the late 2000s, everybody was talking about console throwing PC esports off the throne, and PC esports dying. And now, 10 years later, PC esports is still there, still strong. Console is still there, still strong, especially in North America. So I think it will grow in the next few years. We're having this conversation for the past 2-3 years already, that it will grow, and you see numbers are increasing, especially through, it is accessible, like you already said. Like Deborah said, you always have a smartphone. You not necessarily have access to a PC or to PC banks in Korea, but you will have your mobile phone. So it will definitely grow. I don't think it will it will have the same numbers as PC esports, but it will be there, and I don't think it will be its own thing, because we're already seeing that right now, like big teams that are established and in PC esports, Team Liquid, Cloud9, us with Fnatic. We're investing in mobile esports teams, and we'll just be a part of the whole big esports scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do believe that, as said, not as big as PC esports perhaps, but large by its own scale. One trend that is interesting to see how it affects the popular opinion about mobile games is the fact that a lot of mobile phone companies are now coming up with their own gaming phones.
Right, yeah.
And how that then affects the conception of mobile gaming is, in our case, very interesting to see.
Yeah, no, for sure, agree. Yeah, like Razer, is making its own mobile gaming phone. So the idea of technology also meeting the need, I think we'll see that more and more, which will make it more credible as well. And I think there just haven't been that many titles yet, and we're seeing things like Arena of Valor and Clash, etc., sort of start to pave the way, Vainglory as well. So once we see more of those titles, I think it's just an exposure thing. Like the more we're exposed to something, the more we accept it. So in 5 years' time, I don't think it'll be that much of a battle anymore.
Sure, absolutely. So the future might not be mobile esports, but mobile esports is definitely part of the future, I guess, yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, well, we answered the question then, didn't we? That's excellent. So I think that's probably it from us. I don't know if Mark is out there somewhere with... hello. Any questions from the floor? And Mark will thrust the microphone at you, and feel free to ask our friends here any questions.
Any questions, anyone? Yep.
They can probably hear you, but get the mic anyway so all these guys can hear you.
So you were saying about esports in, well, at least the part of mobile games in Mexico. It's a big thing. There's a lot of people that play PUBG Mobile, a lot of people that I know, and they mostly play it on mobile. I've tried to get some people to get into computer games, but it's just not happening. So I don't know how that's going to work. Maybe in the future.
To what? Sorry, the games?
To get from mobile to PC games. So it's that change, like to get them into PC games, it's really, really hard because people in Mexico can't afford a computer.
Ah, okay. So you're trying to get the mobile adopters to play PC instead. Well, that's good for us then. It's a good sign.
Yeah. I mean, there is the new generation who, like, before they walk, they get the iPad in front of their face and doing stuff with that. It's a natural progression for many of them to then, when they want more serious gaming like experience, that they use the device that they have always used. Some of them will then move on to PC later on, and some might have the mobile device on the side.
Sure. Yeah.
But there are still like some who stick with the mobile devices through stick and bone.
Yeah.
I mean, what you especially can see with all these mobile games that are developed for both running on mobile devices and on like PC and console, a lot of PC console gamers just play on their PC console at home, and as soon as they're traveling and they're sitting, I don't know, on the train for like an hour, like, oh yeah, I can log into a game now.
Yeah.
Like it started with Hearthstone, it's the same with Fortnite, PUBG, and all these games. So yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And I think one thing we're missing out as well is women, because the majority of gamers actually on mobile are females. And I think there's a huge opportunity to cater to that market more as well. So I think we'll see, an even bigger growth there.
When you say cater to that market, do you mean in terms of the way the games are presented or the tournament are presented, or do you mean the actual content itself?
I just think more, women are used to playing on their mobile phones.
Yeah.
So there's just more opportunity there. Less women play on PC than they do on mobile.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Okay, any more out there? Time's up. There's no more, I'm sorry.
Thanks,
But
guys.
thanks to our panelists and thanks very much to you guys as well. Thank you. Cheers.